Society, we need to talk. It seems like you can't be on social media for 10 minutes anymore without running into some meme bemoaning the existence of smartphones as if they're the actual harbingers of the collapse of the family unit, or video games as the destroyer of everything that makes a childhood worth having. Now, thankfully, they're getting sufficient pushback as time goes on, but I feel like a broader reality check is in order, if not complete cultural backlash. A big focus for me with both this channel and life in general is the massive intersection of gaming and mental health. It's even the underlying meaning of my channel logo for those who may have been curious. Gaming is good medicine, and I'm not entirely sure where I'd personally be without it, but considering escapism into gaming was pretty much the only thing I had to separate me from the things that made me both inwardly and outwardly destructive in my formative years, I have no doubt in my mind that Prison or the Cemetery would be on the menu. Alongside an appreciation for the English language and the written word, gaming is one of the best things my mom ever gave me. Thanks to her, I have wonderful memories of gaming dating back to when I was first able to form memories. For my second birthday, I got an Atari 2600. Before that, I remember my mom's Pong console with attached dials, or being wheeled up to arcade machines in a laundry cart to play Pac-Man at the laundromat I quite ironically now live just a block away from, although due to selling half the building to another business back in the 90s, it sadly no longer has arcade games. Fast forward to the school years and finding myself at odds with the vast majority of the people around me, and gaming expanded beyond just being an activity. Now it was therapy, a way to feel good after a day of dealing for the most part with people who I didn't like and quite clearly didn't like me. Even as young as 5 years old, gaming felt like a way for me to get mentally and emotionally paid back for the shit I put up with during the day. The twist is that my mom's school life was remarkably similar to my own, but being a child of the 60s, she didn't have that mental health mechanism that she made sure I had. I can't even imagine what that must have been like, but it's understandable why she got so into it once it became available in the 70s and 80s, and I was astonished when I found out what a stark exception she was to the majority of her generation. Also, shout out to the few of you who were cool with me back then, because odds are we're still in touch, and there's a good chance you're watching this video over 30 years later. So that's the role gaming has played in my life throughout. Now, adult life contains less conflict and more stress, but gaming is always there to provide a better world to exist in. And with the analog world being in probably the worst state it's been in for any of our lifetimes, that is an essential element to have at the ready. It's no wonder that the 2 miles in a blizzard uphill both ways demographic is going to have a problem with it. There's a real sentiment among those types that if you're not miserable, you're a moral failure, and this is consistent across the board. To them, the discovery of clinical depression, ADHD, and other mental conditions was a problem, because they genuinely believe it all to be a behavioral matter to be corrected by whatever level of discipline is required. And if that requisite level of discipline breaks someone, that's a problem with them, not the system. Get in the box or pay with abject misery. Alternatives to conformity are inherently evil in their worldview, especially alternatives that they themselves didn't get to benefit from. When I was your age, blah blah blah. Now, those alternatives, medical, digital, or otherwise, are widespread, and anyone who philosophically disagreed with their existence in the first place is impotent to do anything but sit around and gripe about it. So they do. A lot. Thankfully, this is something that isn't going away. Digital spaces of all sorts, social media, video games, even next-generation stuff like virtual interaction, which Mark Zuckerberg is both very right and very wrong about, but that's another video that I may or may not ever get around to, are so ubiquitous that there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. What we have now is a situation where the analog world has to actively compete with those digital spaces, and it's losing badly. The other thing that must be pointed out is the rank hypocrisy of it all. Spam me with images of people with cell phones or handheld game systems out at the dinner table, and I'll counter with shots of people with noses sunk so deep in newspapers that they couldn't begin to acknowledge anyone around them. People have found ways to ignore each other since time immemorial, but for whatever reason, when the medium changes, people will bitch and moan incessantly about it as if it's some crazy new phenomenon. If, in spite of all this, you're one of the ones who still take offense to this mental migration to digital spaces, I can only reiterate that the analog world is in a position where it is forced to compete with digital ones, and if it's losing miserably, it's no mystery why. Thus, the obvious solution is to do your part to make the analog world more welcoming, more engaging, more comfortable, more interesting than the competition. At the very least, make sure you're not one of the things people are running to digital spaces in order to escape. And if you aren't willing to do at least that, then there's really nothing else to say but, okay, boomer. That's all for now. If you liked this video, or at least took a valuable message from it, then please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it really helps the channel. I'm Patrick Mifflin, sounding off.